They sat across from me at that dining table, their faces cold as stone, and told me I was worth nothing. My brother got $120,000 to start his dream business. I got lectures about disappointment and failure. They said I wasn't worthy of their investment, that I had proven myself incapable, that every dollar spent on me would be wasted. My mother couldn't even look at me when she said it. My father just shook his head like I was some lost cause he'd finally given up on. $120,000 for him. Nothing for me. Not a cent, not even a word of encouragement. Just disappointment dripping from every syllable. I felt something break inside me that night, something that could never be repaired. So I made a decision that would change everything. I walked out of that house, and I vanished. 5 years passed. 5 long years where they had no idea where I was, what I was doing, or if I was even alive. And then, one day, they found out the truth. What they discovered made them realize just how catastrophically wrong they had been. But by then, it was far too late. I remember the exact moment everything changed. I was 28 years old, sitting in my childhood home, surrounded by the same furniture, the same photographs on the walls, the same smell of my mother's cooking wafting from the kitchen. I had always known this, had always accepted it as an unchangeable fact of our family dynamic, like the color of the sky or the turning of seasons. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, give it a thumbs up, and comment what you would do in this situation. I walked into the dining room and saw them all seated already. My mother, my father, and my brother, all arranged on one side of the table like a panel of judges. I felt my face burning, but not with shame this time. With vindication. With a satisfaction I wasn't entirely proud of, but couldn't deny. Would you do the same in my place? And they're looking for me now? I asked. Your mother is sick, she said softly. Cancer. Stage 3. She's been asking for you constantly. Your father and brother have hired private investigators trying to track you down. They're desperate to find you. The news hit me like a physical blow. My mother was sick. You came, my mother whispered, tears streaming down her face. You actually came. Do you think I overreacted? I stood frozen in the doorway, a lump tightening in my throat. They looked so small, so diminished, so different from the powerful, judgmental figures who had dominated my childhood and young adulthood. I came, I confirmed, stepping further into the room. My father stood up, his hands shaking. I don't even know what to say. How to apologize for don't, I interrupted. Not yet. I had changed my phone number, deleted my social media accounts, cut every tie that connected me to my old life. To them, I had simply vanished. I sometimes wondered if they worried, if they looked for me, if they regretted their words. But I pushed those thoughts away. I had to focus on building something, on proving to myself, if not to them, that I was worth more than their low expectations. The first year was brutal. We're trying to help you by teaching you self-reliance. I felt the floor opening beneath my feet. They actually believed what they were saying. They had convinced themselves that their favoritism was somehow for my own good, that their rejection was tough love, that their disappointment in me was justified. I can't believe this, I said, tears welling up in my eyes, though I refused to let them fall. Just immediate, unconditional support. $120,000, handed over like it was nothing. I felt my face burning with a mixture of emotions I couldn't quite name. I was happy for my brother, of course. I wanted him to succeed, but there was something else, something darker, twisting in my chest. A memory I had tried to bury was forcing its way to the surface. Leave me in the comments. Have you been through something similar? 2 years earlier, I had sat in this same dining room with my own business proposal. I had spent months developing it, researching, planning. I wanted to open a small bookstore and cafe, a community space where people could gather, read, attend author events, take writing workshops. I had found the perfect location, negotiated with the landlord, created detailed financial projections. I needed $40,000 to start. I had presented everything to my parents with trembling hands and a hopeful heart. My father had barely glanced at the papers. My mother had sighed like I was asking them to fund a trip to the moon. A bookstore? My father had said, his voice heavy with disappointment. In this economy? With online retailers dominating the market? That's not a business, that's a hobby. It's more than that, I had insisted. It's about community, about creating a space where… So incredibly wrong. I left with $17,000 in savings, I said. Money I had earned myself, working jobs you considered beneath me. I moved to Portland and I opened the bookstore you said would never work. The dream you dismissed as fantasy. The business plan you couldn't even be bothered to read properly. My father's face crumbled. Your brother told us. 2 stores now. Successful, profitable, everything you said it would be. Not just successful, I corrected. Beloved. My hands trembled with contained rage as I sat there, watching my parents fawn over my brother's plans. Nobody had even acknowledged my presence yet. I was invisible, irrelevant, a ghost haunting the edges of their celebration. Finally, my mother looked at me. Her expression was odd, almost guilty, but there was something else there too. Pity, maybe. Or resignation. We need to talk to you about something, she said slowly. Subscribe and hit the bell icon for more stories like this. Give it a thumbs up if you think I did the right thing. That's not fair, my mother protested, but her voice lacked conviction. Isn't it? I looked at each of them in turn. Tell me, when was the last time you came to one of my art exhibitions? When was the last time you asked about my work, my life, my dreams? When was the last time you treated me like I mattered? The silence that followed was deafening. You're being dramatic, my father said finally. You, on the other hand, my mother continued, and her words felt like knives, have been a disappointment to us for years now. The room went silent. Even my brother looked uncomfortable, shifting in his seat and avoiding my eyes. What? I whispered. You dropped out of your master's program, my father said, ticking off points on his fingers. You've bounced from job to job, never staying anywhere long enough to build a real career. First, I need you both to listen. Really listen. Can you do that? They nodded, my mother reaching out her thin hand toward me. I didn't take it. Not yet. 5 years ago, you told me I was a disappointment. You gave my brother $120,000 while telling me I wasn't worth investing in. You dismissed my dreams, my plans, my entire existence as somehow less valuable than his. Do you remember that conversation? Every word, my father said hoarsely. You came to us 2 years ago with that ridiculous bookstore idea that would have bankrupted us all. You're 38 years old, and you have nothing to show for your life. Each word was a hammer blow. My blood boiled with indignation, but I couldn't seem to form words to defend myself. We've decided, my mother said, her voice softer now, but no less devastating, that we cannot in good conscience give you any financial support. Not now, not in the future. They had made their position crystal clear. I was the disappointment, the failure, the child not worth their time or money or faith, and I was done trying to prove otherwise. I walked out of that house, and I didn't look back. I went home to my small apartment, the one I had worked 3 jobs to afford, and I made a decision. If they thought I was a disappointment now, if they thought I had nothing to show for my life, then I would disappear entirely. We stopped outside a room and my brother squeezed my shoulder. They're in there, he said. Do you want me to come in with you? I shook my head. I need to do this alone. I pushed open the door and stepped inside. My mother was in the hospital bed, thin and pale, 4 lines running into her arms. My father sat beside her, holding her hand. They both looked up when I entered, and the expression on their faces made me feel like my chest was caving in. By the 4th year, I was being featured in local magazines and newspapers as a successful small business owner who was revitalizing neighborhood commercial districts. I had proven my parents wrong, but they would never know it. They had no idea that their disappointment had become a catalyst, that their rejection had freed me to succeed on my own terms, that the daughter they had dismissed had built something meaningful and lasting. I straightened in my chair, a lump tightening in my throat. Okay, My father set down the folder and looked at me directly for the first time that evening. Your brother is getting this money because he has proven himself capable of success. He has a degree from a top university, experience in the corporate world, and a track record of making smart decisions. Yeah, this investment makes sense. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. Where was this going? Some primitive part of my brain was screaming that danger was near, that I should run, but I stayed frozen in that chair. My brother cleared his throat. He was wearing one of his expensive suits, the kind he wore to impress investors. His hair was perfectly styled, his watch gleaming on his wrist. He looked successful, confident, powerful. Everything I apparently wasn't. I've been working on a business plan, he began, sliding a thick folder across the table toward our parents. We've been looking everywhere. Mom is sick. She's been asking for you. We need you to come home. I heard about Mom, I said, keeping my voice steady. I'm sorry she's sick, but I need to know something before I decide whether to come back. Anything, he said quickly. Just please, come home. Do you remember that family meeting 5 years ago? When you got $120,000 and I got told I was a disappointment? Another silence, this one uncomfortable. Somewhere that brings the community together, celebrates local artists and writers, makes books accessible and exciting again. Within a week, I had found a small space in an up-and-coming neighborhood. The rent was manageable, and the landlord was willing to work with me on the deposit. I used half my savings to secure the space and buy initial inventory. I spent 8-hour days painting walls, building shelves, creating the warm, welcoming atmosphere I had always envisioned. I would vanish from their world and build something they could never imagine, something they would never see coming. Comment below what you would have done differently. The next morning, I quit my job. I sold everything I owned except what could fit in 2 suitcases. I had been saving money for years, living frugally, preparing for another attempt at my dream. I had $17,000 in my savings account. You just want us to throw money at your fantasies and pretend that's helping you. So I get nothing? I asked, and I hated how small my voice sounded. $120,000 for him, and nothing for me? It's not about the amount, my mother said, but her eyes told a different story. It's about responsibility. It's about proving yourself worthy of investment. And I'm not worthy? The question came out as barely more than a whisper. My brother finally spoke up. It wasn't much, but it was mine, earned through my own work, untainted by their judgment or their conditions. I bought a one-way ticket to Portland, Oregon. I had a friend there, someone from college who had always believed in me, who saw value in my ideas and my passion. I called her and asked if I could stay with her for a few weeks while I figured things out. She said yes without hesitation. My parents tried to call me during those first few days. I didn't answer. My brother sent texts asking if I was okay. I didn't respond. I needed a clean break, a complete separation from the people who had made me feel worthless. In Portland, something inside me unlocked. Away from their constant criticism, their disappointment, their comparisons, I could finally breathe. I could finally think clearly. I could finally see myself not as a failure, but as someone with genuine potential. My friend introduced me to her network: artists, writers, entrepreneurs, creative people who understood that success wasn't just measured in profit margins and prestigious degrees. I told them about my bookstore and cafe idea, expecting the same dismissal I had received from my parents. Instead, they loved it. Leave me in the comments. Have you been through something similar? This city needs exactly that kind of space, one of them said. I named it the last chapter. It felt appropriate somehow, like I was closing one part of my life and beginning another. The bookstore opened 3 months after I arrived in Portland. It was small, modest, nothing fancy, but it was mine. Every book on those shelves, every cup of coffee served, every author event hosted, it was all built by my own hands, fueled by my own determination. My parents still had no idea where I was. Some small part of me wanted him to speak up, to defend me, to acknowledge the injustice of this situation. But he said nothing. He just sat there, accepting their generosity while I was cast aside. "Where are you going?" my mother called as I headed toward the door. "Away from here," I said without turning around. "As far away as I can get." "You're overreacting," my father called after me. "Come back here and let's discuss this rationally." But there was nothing left to discuss. I was told I wasn't worth the investment. I was told I was a disappointment. Those words could have destroyed me. For a while, they almost did, but instead, they became fuel. They became the fire that forged me into someone stronger, someone more determined, someone who knew their own worth regardless of anyone else's opinion. How would you act in this situation? The crowd applauded, but I kept my eyes on my father. Everything looked normal. Everything felt safe. I had no idea that in less than an hour, my entire life would shatter into pieces. My brother had called a family meeting. That should have been my first warning sign. He never called family meetings unless he wanted something, and he usually got whatever he wanted. At 32, he was the golden child, the favored son, the one who could do no wrong in our parents' eyes. In my 5th year away from them, something unexpected happened. I was at a business owners conference in Seattle, networking and learning about expansion strategies, when I ran into someone from my hometown. She recognized me immediately, her eyes widening in shock. "Oh my God," she said. "Everyone has been looking for you. Your parents, your brother, everyone. They filed a missing persons report years ago. Where have you been?" A cold fury settled over me. A missing persons report. They had been looking for me, but had they actually been worried about me? Or just worried about how my disappearance reflected on them? "I've been building a life," I said simply. "Tell me, how is my family?" She hesitated, clearly uncomfortable. "Your brother's business failed about 6 months after you left. He lost everything, including your parents' investment. They had to take out a second mortgage on their house to cover his debts. It's been really hard on them financially. You need to learn to stand on your own feet, to face reality, to grow up. How would you act in this situation?" "I came to you with a business plan 2 years ago," I finally managed to say, my voice shaking. "You didn't even look at it properly. You dismissed it without giving it a real chance. Because it wasn't viable," my father snapped. "And your reaction to that rejection proves our point. You can't handle criticism. You can't handle reality." The community I had dreamed of creating was actually forming, right there in my little bookstore. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, give it a thumbs up, and comment what you would do in this situation. By the end of the 2nd year, I was turning a profit. Not a huge one, but enough to hire an employee, to expand my inventory, to breathe a little easier. By the 3rd year, I had opened a second location across town. How would you act in this situation? It was the first real apology I had ever received from any of them, and it meant more than I wanted to admit. "What happened to your business?" I asked. He laughed bitterly. "It failed spectacularly. Turns out having a good idea and having the ability to execute it are 2 different things. I lost everything. Mom and Dad lost everything. We had to sell their investment properties, downsize their house, all of it." He started writing that story, and a year later, he shared it with me. It was raw and honest and painful to read. He spared himself nothing, detailing every moment of favoritism, every dismissive comment, every way he had failed me as a father. But he also wrote about his transformation, about watching me succeed despite his doubt, about learning to see value in ways he had been too narrow-minded to recognize before. Or would they expect me to simply forgive and forget, to pretend that their treatment of me hadn't fundamentally shaped the last 5 years of my life? Subscribe and hit the bell icon for more stories like this. I decided to reach out, but on my own terms. I called my brother first. He answered on the 2nd ring, and the desperation in his voice was immediately apparent. "Hello? Who is this?" "It's me," I said simply. There was a long silence. Then, "Oh my God, where are you? Are you okay?" That night, I sat in my hotel room and cried for the first time in years. I cried for the relationship I had never had with my parents, for the mother who was sick, for the time we had wasted, for all the words that had been said and could never be taken back. But I also thought about what going back would mean. Would they apologize? Would they acknowledge how wrong they had been? I remember, do you understand why I left? He hesitated. It was complicated. You have to understand, they were just trying to help in their own way. By telling me I was worthless? By investing a fortune in you while refusing to give me anything? That was helping? You're right, he said finally, and his voice cracked. You're absolutely right. It was wrong, all of it. I should have said something then. I should have defended you. I was a coward, and I'm sorry. My mother stood up, reaching for me. Honey, we do love you. We just don't. I stepped back, away from her touch. Don't tell me you love me in the same breath you tell me I'm not worth investing in. Don't tell me you see my value while you hand him enough money to change his life and give me nothing but criticism and disappointment. Do you think I overreacted? My brother was staring at his hands now, unable or unwilling to meet my eyes. The golden child turned out to be fool's gold. I'm sorry that happened to you, I said, and I meant it. Are you? He asked quietly. Because you'd have every right to be happy about it after how we treated you. I'm not happy about it, I said honestly. I'm sad that it happened, but I'm not going to pretend it doesn't prove a point. I asked for $40,000 for a viable business plan, and I was told I wasn't worth the investment. Dying, possibly, and part of me wanted to run back to her immediately, to forget everything that had happened, to be the dutiful daughter one last time. But another part of me, the part that had been forged in the fire of their rejection, held me back. I need to think about this, I told her. I gave her my new phone number and made her promise not to share it with anyone else yet. I needed time to process, to decide what I wanted to do. You asked for $120,000 for something that turned out to be a disaster, and you got it without question. That tells me everything I need to know about how they valued us. They regret it, he said. All of it. Dad especially. He talks about you all the time, about how wrong he was, about how he wishes he could take it all back. And Mom, she's been asking for you every single day. She wants to see you before, his voice broke, before it's too late. Give it a thumbs up if you think I did the right thing. I closed my eyes, fighting back tears. I need you to understand something. I didn't just run away because my feelings were hurt. I left because staying in that environment was killing me. Their disappointment, their constant comparison, their refusal to see any value in who I was or what I wanted to do, it was destroying me from the inside out. Leaving was the only way I could survive. I know, he whispered. I saw it happening and I did nothing. I'm so sorry. I've built a life here, I continued, a good life. I own 2 successful bookstores. I'm respected in my community. I'm happy. Coming back means risking all of that, means opening myself up to their judgment again, means potentially falling back into old patterns. You own bookstores? He asked, and I could hear the surprise in his voice. The idea they said would never work? 2 of them? And because despite everything, Mom is dying, and you might regret it forever if you don't get to say goodbye. Comment below what you would have done differently. He was right, I realized. I needed to go back, but not as the scared, desperate girl who had left. I would return as the woman I had become, strong and successful and worthy, with or without their approval. I'll come back, I said finally, but I need you to prepare them. Tell them about my bookstores, where you can hide from the real world, my mother had interrupted. You've always been like this, living in fantasy, refusing to face reality. This isn't a viable business. It's a dream, and dreams don't pay bills. They had rejected my proposal without even considering it. $40,000 was apparently too much to risk on me, on my dreams, on my potential. But $120,000 for my brother? That was an investment worth making. That's the real lesson. Never underestimate anyone. Never dismiss someone's dreams. Never make your love conditional on achievement or success or meeting arbitrary standards. Because the person you're crushing might be capable of extraordinary things, If only you'd give them the space and support to try. And if you're the one being crushed right now, know that you are capable of extraordinary things. Know that their doubt is not your destiny. She was undergoing aggressive treatment, but the prognosis wasn't good. My father had aged a decade in 5 years, consumed with guilt and worry. They had sold their large house and moved into a small condo. The financial devastation from my brother's failed business had been total. "They know I'm coming?" I asked. "Yes." I told them everything, just like you asked. About your bookstores, your success, all of it. Dad cried. I've never seen him cry before. "I can't believe you're all sitting here, celebrating, giving him more money than most people see in years, and acting like denying me anything at all is some kind of life lesson. You're not entitled to our money," my father said coldly. I never said I was entitled to anything. I just thought, foolishly apparently, that you loved us equally, that you believed in both your children, that you saw value in me beyond just how much money I could make or how prestigious my job title was. Profitable, beloved, exactly what I envisioned when I presented that plan 5 years ago. "Jesus," he breathed. "They need to know this. They need to see what you've accomplished." "Do they?" I asked. "Will it matter? Will it change anything?" "I don't know," he admitted. "But I think you should come back, not for them, but for yourself, so you can see them with clear eyes, so you can say what you need to say, so you can make peace with this situation on your own terms." We pulled into the hospital parking lot and suddenly I couldn't breathe. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. This was it. After 5 years of absence, 5 years of silence, 5 years of building a life they never knew about, I was about to face them again. "Are you ready?" my brother asked gently. "No," I admitted. "But let's do this anyway." We rode the elevator to the oncology floor in silence. Every step down that hallway felt like walking through water, heavy and slow. Every terrible, wrong word. That night, something inside me broke, I continued, and my voice was steady even though my hands trembled, but it also freed me. I realized that I had been living my entire life trying to meet your expectations, trying to earn your approval, trying to prove I was worthy of your love. And that night, I understood I would never be enough for you. So I stopped trying. Comment if you know someone like this. My mother sobbed softly. We were so wrong. I wasn't the same person who had left 5 years ago, and I wanted my appearance to reflect that. The flight back felt surreal. I stared out the window at the clouds and tried to prepare myself for whatever was waiting. My brother had called twice to confirm I was really coming, like he was afraid I would change my mind at the last second. He picked me up from the airport. We hugged awkwardly, 5 years of distance and hurt between us. He looked older, more worn down. It's a bargain, really, considering the projected returns. Within 3 years, this could be worth millions. Would you do the same in my place? My father nodded slowly, studying the papers. This is impressive work, son. Very impressive. He looked up at my mother, and something passed between them. Some silent communication that excluded me entirely. I think we can make this happen. Just like that. No hesitation. No questions about risk or backup plans, or what happens if it fails. Look, sis, maybe if you had applied yourself more, made better choices, shown some ambition. Don't, I interrupted, standing up so quickly my chair scraped against the floor. Don't you dare lecture me about ambition. You've had everything handed to you your entire life. The best schools, the best connections, unlimited chances to fail and try again. I had to fight for every single opportunity, and the one time I asked for help, I was told I wasn't worth the investment. I've created community spaces where people gather, where local artists and writers thrive, where books come alive for a new generation. I've been featured in magazines, won small business awards, been invited to speak at conferences about entrepreneurship and community building. I've done all of this without your money, without your support, without your faith in me. We know, my mother whispered, and we're so proud and so sorry and so ashamed of ourselves. Are you? The golden child's sheen had been tarnished by failure and reality. You look good, he said as we walked to his car. Really good. Successful. I am successful, I said simply. Not in the way they defined success, but in the ways that actually matter. Leave me in the comments. Have you been through something similar? During the drive to the hospital where my mother was being treated, my brother filled me in on details. The cancer had been caught late. I asked, and there was steel in my voice. Are you proud of me? Or are you just relieved that I turned out to be successful by your definition after all? Because I need you to understand something. I didn't build those businesses to prove you wrong. I built them because they mattered to me. Because I believed in the vision even when no one else did. Because I found people who saw value in me, in my ideas, in my passion. The success is wonderful, but it's not what matters most. What matters is that I finally learned to value myself regardless of whether anyone else did. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, give it a thumbs up, and comment what you would do in this situation. You're right, my father said, tears streaming down his face now. You're absolutely right about all of it. We failed you as parents. We played favorites. We were blind. We were cruel. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm grateful for it every single day. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching customers browse the shelves, listening to the quiet murmur of conversation, the rustle of pages turning, the hiss of the espresso machine. This space, this dream they had dismissed, had become real and thriving and exactly what I had envisioned. You know what the real lesson is in all of this? I asked eventually. Tenter novamentum concher. What? Not to live with me, but to be near me, to have a relationship with the daughter he had almost lost forever. He got a small apartment downtown and became a regular at my bookstores. He volunteered, helping customers, recommending books, slowly becoming part of the community I had built. One day, about a year after my mother's death, he was sitting in my original store, reading in one of the comfortable chairs by the window. I brought him a cup of coffee and sat down beside him. We don't expect anything from you except maybe the chance to tell you that we love you. We've always loved you, and we're sorry we made you feel like that love was conditional on your success, or your choices, or anything other than you just being our daughter. Was I wrong to feel this way? I walked closer to the bed finally and looked down at my mother. She looked so fragile, so unlike the strong, judgmental woman I remembered. I knew somewhere in my soul that I was capable of more than they saw, and I decided to prove it to myself, not to them. Once I made it about my own belief instead of their approval, everything changed. She nodded, wiping her eyes. I'm going to do it. I'm going to build my business with or without their support. And someday, they're going to see what they missed. Subscribe and hit the bell icon for more stories like this. Yes, they will, I assured her. It's more than enough, my mother said, finally taking my hand, her grip weak but warm. You're extraordinary, and I was too blind to see it. Please, please forgive me for being so blind. I sat down on the edge of the bed and let myself cry, finally. 5 years of pain and anger and hurt came pouring out, and my mother held my hand through all of it, crying with me. I teach them about self-belief and perseverance. Together, we're breaking the cycles that damaged us. The last chapter remains my pride and joy. My first bookstore, the physical manifestation of a dream that refused to die. I still work there several days a week, serving coffee, recommending books, hosting author events, connecting with the community. It grounds me, reminds me where I came from, keeps me connected to why I started this journey in the first place. My father joined these conversations, and for the first time in my life, I felt like they actually heard me, actually saw me, actually valued me for who I was rather than who they wanted me to be. My brother and I rebuilt our relationship too. He had learned humility through his failure, had come to understand how privilege and favoritism had warped his perspective. We grew closer than we had ever been, bonded by shared pain and hard-won understanding. subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more stories like this. My mother passed away 3 months after I came back into their lives. It was peaceful, at home, surrounded by family. Her last words to me were, "I'm so proud of you. Not because of your success, but because of your strength. You saved yourself when we failed you, and that makes you extraordinary." After her death, my father sold the condo and moved to Portland. "I need to tell you something," he said, setting down his book, "something I should have said 5 years ago." "What's that?" I asked. "Your business plan, the one you brought to us, the one we dismissed so cruelly. I found it the other day while going through old papers. I actually read it this time, really read it. Do you know what I realized?" I shook my head. It was brilliant, detailed, realistic, well-researched, thoughtful. I have months, maybe weeks left to live, and I spent 5 of my last years not knowing where you were, if you were safe, if you were happy, if you even wanted anything to do with us anymore. That's my punishment for what we did to you, and I deserve it." I felt tears welling up in my eyes. Finally, after holding them back for so long, "I didn't disappear to punish you," I said softly. "I disappeared to save myself." "We know," my father said, "and we don't expect you to forgive us." Everything about it showed someone who understood business, understood people, understood what makes a community space work. We didn't even look at it properly because we had already decided you weren't capable of success. We judged you before you ever had a chance to prove yourself. "Give it a thumbs up if you think I did the right thing." "I know," I said gently. "I've always known that." "How did you forgive us?" he asked, his voice rough with emotion. "After everything we did, how did you find it in yourself to let us back in?" I thought about that for a moment. Because holding on to hate was heavier than the hurt itself. Because my mother was dying and I didn't want regret to be my legacy. Because people can change, can grow, can recognize their mistakes and try to do better. And because, despite everything, you're my father, and some part of me still wanted you in my life. He reached over and squeezed my hand. My father asked, looking at me intently, "Never underestimate someone just because they don't fit your definition of success. Never dismiss someone's dreams just because you can't see the vision. And never, ever make your love conditional on achievement. Because the person you're crushing might be capable of extraordinary things, if only you'd give them the space and support to try." He nodded slowly, absorbing my words. "I'll carry that lesson for the rest of my life. We took your brother's success for granted, and we took your struggles as evidence of failure, when really we should have been supporting both of you equally, believing in both of you, loving both of you without condition or comparison. I lost 5 years with my daughter because I was too proud and too stupid to see what was right in front of me," my mother added, her voice breaking. "And I'll make sure your brother does too." My brother had indeed learned his own lessons. After his business failure, he had spent 2 years working entry-level jobs, rebuilding his confidence and his understanding of what real work meant. Eventually, he started a consulting business helping other entrepreneurs avoid the mistakes he had made. It was modest, nothing like the empire he had once envisioned, but it was honest and sustainable and built on genuine experience rather than inflated confidence. He visited Portland often, and we had rebuilt our relationship into something real and honest. One evening, over dinner at a restaurant near my second bookstore, he brought up that fateful family meeting. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if they had supported your bookstore idea instead of my tech startup?" he asked. "Sometimes," I admitted, "but I think things happened the way they needed to. If they had given me that money, I would have always wondered if my success was really mine or if it was just their investment paying off. This way, I know beyond any doubt that I built this myself, that I was capable all along." Leave me in the comments. Have you been through something similar? "I think about it all the time," he said quietly, "about how their money destroyed me in a way. It made me think I was invincible, that I couldn't fail, that I didn't need to work as hard or be as careful because I had a safety net. When I lost everything, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. It forced me to actually grow up." "We both grew up the hard way," I said. just in different directions. Yeah, but you grew up stronger. I grew up humbled. There's a difference. As the years passed, my bookstores continued to thrive. I opened a third location, then a fourth. I started a small publishing imprint focusing on local authors. I created writing workshops and literacy programs for underprivileged children. The business I had built became more than just a bookstore. It became a community institution, a force for good, exactly what I had always dreamed it could be. My father watched all of this with a mixture of pride and regret. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Give it a thumbs up and comment what you would do in this situation. I told her the truth about the family meeting, about being told I was a disappointment, about the $120,000 my brother received while I got nothing, about disappearing for 5 years and building everything from scratch with my own savings, about proving that the dream they had dismissed was not only viable but valuable. I've healed my relationships with my family while maintaining my boundaries and my sense of self. I've proven that I was worth the investment, even though I had to make it myself. I've proven that my dreams were viable, even though I had to build them alone. I've proven that I was never the disappointment they believed me to be. But the most important thing I've proven is this: I didn't need their approval to succeed. I didn't need their money to build something meaningful. The article came out 3 months later. It was titled "The Bookstore Owner Who Built an Empire on Rejection." It went viral, shared thousands of times across social media. I received messages from people all over the country who had similar stories, who had been underestimated by their families, who had succeeded despite being told they would fail. My father called me the day the article published, his voice thick with emotion. I read it, every word. And I'm so sorry that your success story has to include my failure as a parent. It's not just about your failure, I told him gently. It's about resilience. It's about believing in yourself when no one else does. It's about turning pain into purpose. Yes, what you and Mom did hurt me terribly, but it also made me who I am today. That doesn't make it right, he insisted. No, it doesn't, but it makes it part of my story. And I've made peace with my story. Would you do the same in my place? The article brought unexpected opportunities. I was invited to speak at entrepreneurship conferences, to mentor young business owners, to share my story with others who were struggling to believe in themselves. I always told the full truth, including the painful parts, because I believed that honesty about struggle was more valuable than pretending success came easily. During one of these speaking engagements, a young woman approached me afterward. She was crying, clutching the article about me that she had printed and highlighted. My parents told me last week that I'm not worth investing in, she said through her tears. They're giving my sister money to start her business, and they told me I need to figure things out on my own. I felt so worthless, so invisible, so angry. And then I read your story and I realized I'm not alone. I hugged her tightly, my own tears flowing. You're not alone, and you're not worthless. Sometimes the people who are supposed to believe in us first are the ones who are too blind to see our value. But that doesn't define your value. Only you get to do that. How did you stay strong enough to keep going? She asked. I didn't always feel strong, I admitted. There were nights I sobbed into my pillow, days I wanted to give up, moments I questioned everything. But I had this stubborn kernel of belief deep inside that wouldn't die. And even more importantly, you're going to see it. You're going to know your own worth, your own strength, your own capability. That's the real victory. Watching her walk away with renewed determination, I felt a sense of purpose beyond just my own success. My story, painful as it was, had become a beacon for others navigating similar darkness. Cancer had stripped away all the armor, leaving only the vulnerable human underneath. I want to forgive you, I said honestly. I want to rebuild some kind of relationship with you both. But I need you to understand that it has to be different this time. No more comparisons. No more disappointment. No more conditions on your love or approval. I am who I am. I've built what I've built, and that has to be enough. The rejection that had once devastated me had transformed into a gift I could give to others, the gift of knowing they could survive it, overcome it, and build something beautiful on the other side. 10 years after that family meeting, I hosted a special event at my flagship store. It was an anniversary celebration, marking a decade since I had opened the doors of the last chapter for the first time. If I can spare even one person that pain, if I can give even one person the chance they deserve, then everything I went through was worth it. He looked at me with an expression I had never seen before. You took the worst thing we ever did to you and turned it into something that helps hundreds of people. That's not just success, that's redemption, not for us, but for all the pain you endured. On what would have been my mother's 75th birthday, my father and I visited her grave. I want to thank the people who doubted me because their doubt taught me self-reliance. I want to thank the people who rejected me because their rejection freed me to build something authentic. And I want to thank the people who eventually acknowledged their mistakes and worked to repair the damage because their growth taught me about forgiveness and second chances. After the speech, my father approached me, his face wet with tears. "That was incredibly generous of you," he said. He listened to story after story of family rejection and subsequent triumph. Afterward, he was quiet for a long time. "What are you thinking?" I asked. "I'm thinking about how many times this happened," he said slowly. "How many people like you were told they weren't good enough, weren't worth the investment, wouldn't succeed, and how many of them proved everyone wrong." "More generous than I deserve, maybe," I agreed. "But holding on to bitterness would only poison me, not you. I chose to let it go, not for your sake, but for mine." He pulled me into a tight hug. "Your mother would be so proud. I wish she could see this, all of this." "I think she does," I said softly. "And I think she finally understands what she couldn't see when she was alive. That success isn't measured in dollar signs or prestigious degrees. It's measured in impact, in community, in lives touched and changed. It's measured in having the courage to build something meaningful, even when the people who should believe in you don't." As the celebration continued around us, I looked at my bookstore, at the people filling every corner, at the life I had built from nothing but determination and $17,000. This was my vindication. Not because I had proven my parents wrong, but because I had proven myself right. Do you think I overreacted? The next day, my brother came by the store alone. We sat in the cafe area with coffee, comfortable in each other's presence in a way we never had been before. "I've been thinking about that family meeting a lot lately," he said, "about how different our lives turned out from what anyone expected that night." "You mean how I succeeded and you failed?" I asked bluntly. He winced but nodded. "Yeah, but also how those outcomes shaped us. My failure taught me humility and resilience. Your success taught you confidence and self-reliance. In a weird way, we both got what we needed, even if the path was painful." "That's a very mature perspective," I said, genuinely impressed. "I've had a lot of time to think about it. And a lot of therapy," he added with a wry smile. "But seriously, I want you to know something." As we walked back to the car, my father said something that surprised me. "I've been thinking about writing my own story. Not for publication, just for the family. About my mistakes, my growth, the lessons I learned too late. I want your niece and any future grandchildren to understand what I did wrong, so they can learn from it without having to live through it themselves." "I think that's a beautiful idea," I said. "Honesty about our failures is a gift to the next generation." Losing everything was the only thing that could have broken through my arrogance. "But you didn't need to lose everything to find yourself. You had the strength to build from nothing, to believe in yourself when no one else did." "That's real strength. We're both strong now," I said, "just in different ways. And we're both better people than we were 10 years ago." "I'm teaching my daughter about all of this," he said, glancing at a photo of his little girl on his phone. "About not taking anything for granted, about treating people fairly regardless of their success or status, about believing in people's dreams, even when you don't understand them. I don't want her to grow up with the same entitled blindness I had, or to treat anyone the way we treated you. That's the best thing you could do, I told him. Break the cycle. Be better than what was done to us. Years continued to pass and my businesses grew. The last chapter became a small chain with 7 locations across 3 states. I wrote a book about my journey called Building on Rejection, how I turned disappointment into purpose. It became a bestseller, particularly popular among women entrepreneurs and anyone who had ever been underestimated by their families. Comment below what you would have done differently. I used the proceeds from the book to establish a grant program for aspiring entrepreneurs who had been rejected by traditional funding sources or family support. Every year, I gave out 10 grants of $40,000 each, the exact amount my parents had, refused me to people with solid business plans and the determination to succeed despite obstacles. The grant program became my proudest achievement, even more than the bookstores themselves. I read every application personally, looking for that spark of determination, that stubborn belief in a dream that wouldn't die despite rejection. I found it in so many people: the woman whose family laughed at her restaurant idea, the man whose father told him he'd never amount to anything, the non-binary entrepreneur whose parents cut them off financially after they came out. Each grant recipient became part of an extended family, a network of people who understood what it meant to build something from nothing, to succeed despite doubt, to prove their worth to themselves first and the world second. We had annual gatherings where grant recipients past and present could share their stories, support each other, and celebrate their victories together. My father attended one of these gatherings with me. It makes me wonder how much human potential is wasted because people in positions of power, parents, teachers, bosses, investors, are too blind or too prejudiced to see it. Leave me in the comments. Have you been through something similar? That's exactly why I started this program, I said, because I never want anyone to feel the way I felt that night, sitting alone at a table while my family celebrated giving my brother everything and giving me nothing. I worked 7 days a week, barely breaking even, wondering if I had made a terrible mistake. There were nights I cried myself to sleep, exhausted and terrified, and questioning every decision that had led me to this point. But slowly, gradually, things began to change. Customers became regulars. Regulars became friends. Friends brought more customers. Local authors wanted to do readings at my store. Book clubs asked to meet there. Parents brought their children for story time. We brought flowers and stood in silence for a while, each lost in our own thoughts. "She'd be so amazed by everything you've built," my father said finally. "The bookstores, the publishing imprint, the grant program, your book, all of it. You've created an empire of opportunity and hope." "Do you think she would have believed in me if she had lived longer?" I asked. Really believed in me, not just been proud of my success after the fact. He considered this carefully. The store was packed with customers, friends, employees, local authors, and community members who had supported me over the years. My father was there, of course, standing in the corner with tears in his eyes as he watched me give a speech thanking everyone for their support. My brother was there too, with his wife and their young daughter, my niece, whom I adored. During my speech, I looked directly at my father. 10 years ago, I was told my dream would never work. I think she was changing at the end. She was starting to understand that her definition of success had been too narrow, too rigid. If she had lived, I believe she would have continued that growth. She would have learned to see you the way you deserve to be seen all along. "I hope so," I said softly. "I really hope so." If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, give it a thumbs up, and comment what you would do in this situation. At the end, he wrote, "My daughter taught me that love should never be conditional, that dreams deserve respect even when we don't understand them, and that the people we underestimate might be the ones capable of the most extraordinary things. She taught me these lessons not through words, but through the simple act of succeeding spectacularly in exactly the way I said she couldn't. I failed her for years, but she gave me a second chance I didn't deserve. That's grace. That's strength. That night, when mom and dad gave me that money and told you that you weren't worth investing in, I should have said something. I should have stood up for you. I should have refused the money until they treated you fairly. But I didn't, because I was selfish and entitled and couldn't see past my own ambition. Give it a thumbs up if you think I did the right thing. You were, I agreed, but you're not anymore. People change. You've changed. Because I lost everything, he said. There was an empty chair on the opposite side, for me, alone. The symbolism wasn't lost on me, though at the time I tried to ignore the cold feeling creeping up my spine. Sit down, my father said, gesturing to the empty chair. His tone was formal, almost businesslike. This wasn't going to be a casual family chat. I sat down slowly, my hands clasped in my lap. My heart was already starting to race, though I couldn't explain why. That's the measure of true character. I cried reading those words. Not tears of pain this time, but tears of healing. The wound that family meeting had opened 15 years ago had finally, truly, completely healed. Would you do the same in my place? Today, at 43 years old, I run a small empire built on the foundation of a dream my parents once dismissed. I employ over 100 people across my 7 stores. My publishing imprint has launched 30 local authors. My literacy programs serve thousands of children every year. My grant program has funded 53 entrepreneurs who are now thriving in their own right. But more than any of that, I've rebuilt my relationship with my father and my brother. We're not perfect, and there are still moments when old patterns threaten to resurface, but we catch them now. We call them out. We do better. My father volunteers at my original Portland store 3 days a week. He's become beloved by the regular customers. This elderly man who recommends books with genuine passion and tells anyone who will listen about his daughter's success. It's his way of making amends, of using his remaining years to support the dream he once crushed. My brother and I are genuine friends now. We talk weekly, support each other's businesses, and make sure our children grow up knowing they're equally valued and loved. He teaches them about humility and resilience. How would you act in this situation? Sometimes, late at night when the store is closed and I'm alone among the shelves, I think about that family meeting 15 years ago. I think about sitting alone across from my parents and brother, being told I was a disappointment, being denied any support while they poured money into a venture that would ultimately fail. I think about how much that moment hurt, how deeply it cut, how completely it shattered my sense of worth and belonging. My father wrapped his arms around both of us, and we stayed like that for a long time, a broken family trying to piece itself back together. Over the next few weeks, I flew back and forth between Portland and my hometown regularly. My mother's condition deteriorated rapidly, but we made the most of the time we had. We talked honestly about everything, about the past, about my childhood, about the favoritism and the damage it had caused. But I also think about how that moment freed me. It forced me to stop seeking validation from people who couldn't or wouldn't give it. It pushed me to find validation within myself, to build something entirely my own, to prove my worth to the only person whose opinion truly mattered. Me. If they had supported me that night, if they had given me the money and the encouragement I needed, would I have built something this meaningful? Would I have developed this depth of strength and resilience? Would I have learned these crucial lessons about self-belief and independence? I honestly don't know. What I do know is this: I am stronger because I was doubted. I am wiser because I was rejected. I am more compassionate because I was hurt. I am more successful because I had to build everything myself. Their rejection, as painful as it was, became the foundation for everything I've achieved. Do you think I overreacted? That doesn't mean what they did was right. It doesn't excuse the favoritism, the cruelty, the dismissiveness. But it does mean that I've transformed that pain into purpose, that hurt into healing, that rejection into redemption, not just for myself, but for everyone my work now touches. I've learned that family isn't just about blood. It's about who believes in you, who supports you, who sees your value even when you can't see it yourself. I found that family in Portland, among friends and employees and community members who embraced my vision and helped me build it. I rebuilt a different version of family with my father and brother, one based on honesty and growth rather than competition and favoritism. The young woman I once was, sitting alone at that table, being told she wasn't worth $120,000 of investment. I wish I could go back and tell her everything. I'd tell her that the pain she's feeling right now will eventually transform into power. I'd tell her that being underestimated is sometimes the greatest gift because it frees you to exceed everyone's expectations, including your own. I'd tell her that she is worth so much more than their narrow definition of value. But I can't go back. None of us can. All we can do is move forward, carrying our scars and our lessons, building something better than what came before. Comment below what you would have done differently. My story isn't unique. There are thousands, probably millions of people who have been underestimated by their families, told they're not good enough, denied support while watching siblings or cousins or friends receive everything they need. Some of those people let that rejection define them, let it convince them the doubters were right. Others, like me, use it as fuel. If you're reading this and you've been through something similar, if you've been the disappointment, the one passed over, the one told your dreams are worthless, please know this. Their inability to see your value doesn't diminish your value. Their refusal to believe in you doesn't mean you're not worth believing in. Their disappointment says everything about their limitations and nothing about your potential. You are not defined by their rejection. You are defined by what you build in spite of it. You are defined by the strength you find when support is withheld. You are defined by your ability to believe in yourself when no one else does. I was told I was worth nothing. I proved I was worth everything. Not because I made a lot of money or built a successful business, but because I maintained my dignity, protected my dreams, and refused to let their judgment become my reality. That's the real success. That's the real victory. I didn't need their belief to know my own worth. All I needed was my own determination, my own vision, and my own refusal to accept their definition of who I could be. That's what I want you to take from my story. Not that revenge is sweet or that proving people wrong is the goal, but that your worth is inherent, not assigned. That your dreams are valid, even when they're dismissed. Tell them I've been successful beyond anything they imagined. Tell them that I'm coming back not because I need them, but because I'm choosing to give them a chance to make this right. I will, he promised. When can you come? This weekend. I'll fly in Friday evening. The next few days passed in a blur of preparation. I arranged for my managers to run both stores in my absence. I packed carefully, choosing clothes that made me feel confident and powerful. That you are capable of building extraordinary things with or without the support of the people who should have supported you from the beginning. They gave my brother $120,000 and told me I was worth nothing. I took my $17,000 and my wounded pride and my broken heart, and I built an empire. Not because I wanted to prove them wrong, but because I needed to prove myself right. And that, ultimately, is what matters. Not their opinion. It's a tech startup, revolutionary software that will change how businesses manage their supply chains. I've done all the research, built the prototype, secured preliminary interest from potential clients. I just need capital to launch. My mother picked up the folder like it was made of gold, her eyes shining with pride. This is wonderful, honey. How much do you need? $120,000, he said without hesitation. Know that you can build a life so meaningful, so successful, so impactful that their rejection will become nothing more than a footnote in your story of triumph. Was I wrong to feel this way? 15 years after that family meeting, I've built everything I dreamed of and more. I've created spaces where people connect over books and ideas. I've launched authors and nurtured creativity and fostered community. I've given opportunities to people who were doubted just like I was. Not their approval, not their investment, but your belief in yourself, your commitment to your dreams, and your refusal to let anyone's doubt define your destiny. Subscribe and hit the bell icon for more stories like this. Give it a thumbs up if you think I did the right thing. Comment what you would have done in this situation. Leave me in the comments, have you been through something similar? Remember, you are not a disappointment. You are not worth nothing. You are not defined by those who failed to see your value. You are defined by your strength, your resilience, your dreams, and your determination to build something meaningful despite every obstacle in your path. That's the truth they couldn't see 15 years ago. That's the truth I've spent 15 years proving. And that's the truth I want you to carry with you, wherever your journey takes you next.